What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another fantasy football video. It's Wednesday, so you know what time it is. Time to release another set of rankings. We got quarterbacks this week, running backs next week, and then wide receivers the following week. Basing this off 4-point passing touchdown, -2 for an interception. That's just what almost everyone plays. So in a 6-point passing touchdown league, you're just going to bump up the guys with a higher touchdown projection, and the rest is just obvious. But 4-point passing touchdown. This is the rankings as of, I guess, July 24th is when I'm recording this. It's going to go up a little bit later. So the rankings are going to change. All rankings change after I make these videos. So just go to the website, link in the description down below, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. You can download our most updated rankings, and on there I post next to each one when it was last updated. So there's two different screens. One, you hit the drop down, you can just view the rankings, or if you click the download rankings button, it brings you to the page where you can download each individual ranking to your computer. But both screens have when it was last updated. So before you draft, make sure you just get the most updated version. It downloads right to Excel. It'll only download you the basic rankings. This is the premium rankings I'm showing you here, but all the premium stuff is blurred out except for the player and the grade that I give them per round and the tiers and stuff. If you want to get access to that, it's $20. You also get our in-season articles, because we still don't know if we're probably not going to make videos. I'm going to tell you right now, we're probably not going to make videos. It's going to be the articles. So it's going to be the DFS article every week, which is going to be huge. I'm going to be giving you guys DFS lineups. But it's also going to be the trade target and streaming option article, and the player ads, the waiver wire article, and also access to the private chat. If you want to get access to that but don't want the premium rankings for some reason, I mean, we put so much time into these premium rankings. I think they're great. But if you don't want that, we are going to lower the price once the season starts. So once we're at week 1, no one's drafting anymore, we're going to lower the price. Don't know what to. Probably around like $5 probably. And then that'll give you access to the articles. It'll give you access to the chat, which I think are really great tools. But on to this video. Quarterback rankings, starting it off pretty obvious at number 1. And it's Aaron Rodgers. And there's really only a case, in my opinion, for one other player. I guess you could put Tom Brady at 1 if you wanted to, but I'm putting Rodgers at 1 just for the security. He gives me that rushing floor each week, and it's not a big rushing floor, but he gets some yards on the ground. He gets some rushing touchdowns, not a lot, but I feel safe with his floor, and I think that passing-wise, he has a very similar upside to Brady. I'll talk about Brady's upside in a second, but they just throw the ball so much when they get in close. I know a lot of people want to hop on the Ty Montgomery hype train. I believe that Ty Montgomery has a huge ceiling and a pretty good floor, honestly, but I don't think Ty Montgomery takes anything away from Rodgers. Maybe he's an established guy they can have on the ground. I don't think they're going to feed him at all by any means, but if they can get a good, 12 to 13 carries a game out of Montgomery, defenses have to respect. And now he's got a guy he can dump off to. You already know Rodgers is a super elite all-time quarterback. I just think he's so safe, but I won't be drafting him personally, even though he ends up 1 in my rankings, just because I never take quarterbacks early, and I think you have to spend a 3rd round pick to get him. I don't think he's going to be available unless you're in like a really small league any later than that, and I have him as a 3rd round grade, but typically I have a lot of guys that are 3rd round grade, so if you want to draft a quarterback early and it's in the 3rd round, you can take Rodgers. I just won't be, because I have so many other players ranked ahead of him that I'll end up taking them instead. And I like so many of the quarterbacks going later. I mean, the expected value of a high-end quarterback really isn't that much greater than a low-end quarterback. Expected value-wise, they're not that far off. A lot closer than you think. So I'm fine waiting on quarterback. Just wait until you see someone drop, because someone's going to drop. Unless everyone starts going early, then just take the best value you can find. But I guarantee you someone will drop. You'll be able to find value. But Rodgers is number 1 in my opinion. Number 2 is Tom Brady, and I'd say it's because the ceiling, I think, is a much greater ceiling than Breeze. I mean, I think he has a 50 touchdown ceiling. Blunt took 18 touchdowns last year, and Brady still had, 28 touchdowns with the suspension. So we can project him. Like, a projection can be around 40 touchdowns. Now, I have that a little bit lower as a projection, but I'm conservative in my projections. I'm not going to project him at 50 touchdowns, but he could do that. I mean, he could throw for 50 touchdowns. I mean, look at his weapons. Edelman, Hogan, Mitchell, Amendola, Gronk, White, all returning. But you're also going to add in a deep threat in Cooks. You're going to add in Burkhead. You're going to add in Gillislee, who I think is a better running back than Blunt anyways. So we increased the quality of weapons for the running backs and the wide receivers. We bring back Gronk, because remember, Gronk was hurt for a large portion of last year. And you know Belichick's going to use Cooks properly. I mean, Cooks grades out as one of the greatest wide receivers ever against slow cornerbacks. Look up the Pro Football Focus article on it. He is insane against slow cornerbacks. Honestly, he's mediocre against fast ones. But do you think that we have to hyper-focus on Cooks? No. So Belichick's going to design plays where Cooks is on a linebacker, or linebacker's on Cooks, I guess, and he's going to be utilized properly. So Cooks is going to be boom or bust, but Brady won't be. Brady's going to be very consistent around 303 touchdowns every single week. Is he going to hit 303 touchdowns every week? No, but he'll have weeks where he's around 405 touchdowns. So that's the kind of upside only him, Rodgers, and Brees have. That's why they're in the tier by themselves. So I guess let's talk a little bit about Brees. He is going to be at least top 3, I would say, every single year in passing yardage. The touchdowns, I mean, I guess touchdowns are fluky with anyone. The touchdowns will be there anyways. He's going to throw more interceptions than Rodgers and Brady. I think interceptions are slightly overrated as a stat for fantasy. Obviously not for football. But for fantasy, I'm not too concerned. Unless you're going to be throwing for like 30 interceptions or something. I think interceptions are just a little bit overrated. But he's going to be a little bit lower in projection for touchdowns, but he's going to be greater in projection for yardage. He's not going to run the ball. Maybe he gets a rushing touchdown to sneak, but he's not going to be running the ball, so he doesn't have that floor. But I just think, I mean, getting to play half your games in the Superdome, having an elite offense with a bad defense, and knowing that you're getting like 4,600 at least yardage, I mean, I have him as a 6th round grade just because, again, I don't take quarterbacks early. But if Brees falls to you and you're one of those players, it really comes down to like how active you are with these top guys. Like you can take a top end quarterback if you think that maybe you're going to be really busy during the year and you can't scout the waiver wire, like you can't stream. Like I'm talking about streaming's the best option for me because you can get quarterback 5 or quarterback 6 production from streaming. That's what I did last year. But if you can't put the time in to stream and you don't want to scout the waiver wire for quarterbacks, like maybe you want to do it for other positions, and you're like, listen, I just need someone who I can't drop, I just need to play every single week, then okay, you can go with one of these top guys. But if you're going to be active in your league and you can stream and you can find value in free agency, like Bortles a few years ago, like Cousins a few years ago, like Mariota last year, like Matt Ryan last year, then I'm going to stay away from this tier, even though it's an elite tier. But I guess it's all in your personal preference. So that rounds out this first tier. Again, it's just these 3. I don't really see a case for putting anyone else into it. The next 3 guys, I really do think are in a tier of their own. And maybe you guys start disagreeing here with the rankings. We got Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, and Matt Ryan. Luck and Wilson I put at a 7th round grade, and Matt Ryan 8th round grade, and all these are for 12-team leagues. I don't think you can put Luck into the same tier just because of the injury concerns with him and the offensive line. Like the shoulder injury, it concerns me. The bad offensive line, it concerns me. Like he's going to take a pounding, but the upside's there. I mean, there's definitely a chance he finishes as quarterback 1, as the best quarterback in the entire draft, like whole season. But there's also a chance that he ends up as quarterback 30 because he got hurt. And I don't know. I don't want to spend. He's probably going around this spot, around the 6th or 7th spot. That may change, but it seems that sometimes he gets taken early and sometimes he goes a little bit later. But in general, I think the community is a little bit off on him this year, whereas in previous years they've been a little bit more on because we've seen the upside, but we're a little bit removed from that upside. We're a little bit removed from him being an elite weapon because of recency bias. People just look back at last year and like, well, I don't want him. But he has that upside. So if you're in this range and you want a guy that has the best chance of finishing 1, I do not think it's Matt Ryan. I think it's Andrew Luck, if he can stay healthy. He's got the weapons around him, not the same caliber weapons as like Brady has, but I mean, T.Y. Hilton's great. I think that Moncrief's fine, but I think he's just got a lot of like solid weapons. Marlon Mack, I think, is gonna be solid out of the backfield as a receiving back. So he's got weapons around him, but he's also got a really bad defense, which again helps a quarterback because he's gonna have to be in shootouts. He's gonna have to throw the ball a lot. So I like Luck. I like Wilson a little bit more because he's going a little bit later. You're getting a slightly better rushing floor. You're getting less interceptions, definitely. You're getting less upside in the passing yardage and passing touchdowns. But I think that the points I put forth before that, with the yardage in the ground game and the less interceptions, make up for that. So I'd say their upside is similar, but Luck has more upside. But again, Wilson has a lower floor. I would not call him injury prone. I'd say that just because he rushes so much, and football is such a dangerous sport that if you're a football player, you are inherently injury prone. And the more you have the ball, the more you're getting hit. Again, he's going to get hit more than some of these other guys. The more injury prone you are, even if you're not an injury prone person. But I don't think that should take away, because I mean you're getting like a 30 or 40 rushing yard floor each week, which doesn't sound like a lot. But if I'm going to take a 4-point floor before you give me touchdowns, before you give me passing yardage, I'll take that. And we saw that he was a little bit injured to start last year, so the numbers weren't really there. But I think he is a great option. So this is probably the first quarterback I can see myself drafting. 5th quarterback, I'm not taking Rodgers, Brady, and I love Brady because I'm a Patriots fan, but I'm not taking Rodgers, Brady, Breeze, Luck in any leagues. I love 0% of all of them. But Wilson's the first guy I'll probably take. And it'll be if he falls. Again, I always want value at quarterback. I never will reach on a quarterback. But if Wilson falls, which I've seen him do in drafts, I'm comfortable taking him early. I'm comfortable taking him in the 7th round because I think that he can give me a top 5 season that maybe streaming can't get me. Because I think I can easily get 6th, but I think I can get 5th streaming. And I think he can outproduce that. And that's what I want out of my quarterback. I'm going to take him this early. I have him ahead of Matt Ryan, which is probably the one, like I said, I think you guys might disagree with maybe. But I see regression from that offense, just natural regression. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not going to say they're going to be bad. They'll probably be good. But when you take an historic offense that historically has not been an historic offense, that has been above average but not that great, like not elite, they're going to regress. And he had a season that, like, he's been fine in his career, but that was a season he's not going to repeat. I know he was MVP, but look back at the quarterback MVPs and then look what they did the next season. For fantasy purposes, they've always been overdrafted. I mean, just look at the case for Cam Newton. Like, he tanked. I don't think it's going to be a Cam Newton situation, but I think he's going to regress, and he's just not going to be worth a mid-round pick. So I'm an 8th round grade. Pretty sure he's not going to be going there, but I mean, that's why I probably won't be drafting him very much. So this range, not in love with it, except I really like Wilson. I probably have Wilson higher than a lot of people at 5th. And it doesn't mean you need to take him 5th, but it means that if he's there in like the 7th, 8th round, I am comfortable taking him. All right, next here we've got leading is Kirk Cousins. I probably have him higher than a lot of people too, but it's Kirk Cousins, Jameis Winston, Derek Carr, Cam Newton, and Phillip Rivers. Cousins was, I guess, one of the best value picks. He's been climbing a lot recently. I have him in the 9th round grade, and that actually means, believe it or not, I'm probably not going to have him in many leagues. I'll take him in the 8th, and I'll consider moving him into an 8th round grade, but he's actually been climbing into like the 7th and 8th round, which is getting to the point that I don't want to be at. I've had him in a 9th round grade, because I think if he's there in the 9th round, that's a great value. And like I've said, I want value at every spot in the draft, really, but definitely quarterback, because there's so many chances. He's not injury prone. He's been, I don't believe he's missed a game in the time that he's actually been the starting quarterback, but he's not injury prone. He's not going to run a ton, and I mean, that's why I can have him as not really an injury risk. But you look at how this offense is going to be structured, and I know they brought in P. Ryan, and Fat Rob, he wasn't good, but I will say that maybe I've gone a little bit too far in saying he's horrible as a running back. He wasn't good by any means, but they'll have like a serviceable ground game, in my opinion. But it's not going to be an elite ground game. And when you look at the weapons and you look at what they've done recently, they're going to throw a lot. And if, say if, Jordan Reed stays healthy, I don't think he's going to stay healthy, but if Jordan Reed does end up staying healthy, then, I mean, he's going to have an elite cast around him. Crowder's one of the best slot receivers in the game. We don't really know how they're going to use Pryor in the offense, I guess, volume-wise, but I expect them to use him a good amount, especially in the red zone. But if you've got Pryor, if you've got Crowder, if you've got Reed, and then, I mean, we'll see what happens, like, with Doctson. Like, I don't really know. I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen with Doctson. But regardless, even if Doctson isn't that great this season, Cousins is going to have a great floor each week, and he's got the ceiling each week. So I love the Kirk Cousins pick. He's ahead of Winston because of volume. Pace of play is an issue. Like, if you are looking for, I know he's not a risky play because he doesn't really get hurt, or at least he's proven he doesn't get hurt. He's still really young. But Jameis Winston's pace of play for that team in the second half does concern me. So I want him in the 10th round. I'm not reaching at all. I'm fine reaching a little bit for Cousins. I'm not reaching at all for Winston because they did shift more towards a slower pace of play. They were running the ball a little bit. They tried to get the defense, win the game by defense and run the ball, so there weren't as many shootouts, and that concerns me a little bit. He's not going to be amongst the league leaders in passing yardage. You know, he's going to be in the lower fours, probably around like 4.1, 4.2. He's going to be around that upper 20s to 30 touchdowns. He's going to have some interceptions, so he does have less upside than a lot of people. But I also think he's very young, and he's still developing. And when you have Mike Evans, when you bring in O.J. Howard, and you bring in Deshaun Jackson, this offense is a lot better. If Doug Martin can return to the old Doug Martin we know, when he was a really good running back, this can be a really good offense. So could the touchdowns progress or have positive regression? Yes, I think they can. But could they regress? Yes. He could see both positive and negative regression for touchdowns. Like, either or could happen. So he could be a very disappointing pick. If they have an efficient offense and they run the ball a lot more and they slow down their pace of play, or at least keep it what it was second half, he could be a bad pick. By no means am I saying he's a lock. So if you want no risk with this pick, I think I'm going to move him down. He's in like the no risk tier, and now talking about it, I think I need to move him down just because, like, you know that he's going to be fine. So there's no risk in that he just duds, but there's risk that he doesn't provide the same value you took him in if you took him in like the 8th, 9th round, which I think is roughly where he's going. So I have him at 10th round. I think that's fine. I think at the 10th round, you're not getting too much risk there. But if he's any earlier, I think the risk starts to raise. Another guy I'll probably 0% of is Derek Carr. He's been going just way too early. Like, I don't think people realize what they have in Derek Carr. Listen, the offensive line is great, but I don't think that helps him as much as people say it does. Like, Derek Carr is going to be good and efficient and stuff, but they're going to run the ball a lot. And especially with Lynch, if Lynch stays healthy, they're going to run the ball a lot in the red zone. So he is probably going to have less passing yards than Jameis Winston. He's probably going to be in like the low 4s to like upper 3s. Maybe 3.9 to 4.1. He's going to be under 30 passing touchdowns probably. He's not going to run the ball. I don't know. I think he's a good quarterback. I think people look at his contract and they think he's an elite quarterback, which he's not. I think he's a good quarterback. I think that they gave him that money because, listen, you need a good quarterback in this league. And I think he's a good quarterback that can get him into the playoffs and maybe win some playoff games. But he's not an elite quarterback. He's going to be a QB1, but people are taking him in like the 8th round. And I have him at 10th round. Listen, if he falls there, great, but he's not going to. So I probably have 0 of him. I've never actually drafted Cam Newton. I may have drafted him once. I know I traded for him once, but listen, we saw his upside when he had the MVP season, but I don't know. Cam Newton's just never done it for me. It's always been when he had that great season for fantasy. 2, I think. He had 2 great seasons for fantasy. He was doing it in the rushing game. And that has been taking a lesser role in their offense. I mean, in recent years, he has had a reduced role in the ground game. And I think after that play last year where he He pulled up close to the end zone, and then he got the concussion. I don't know why he pulled up. It was a stupid play on him. But I think they just see that, and they're like, we are not that great of a team if we don't have Cam Newton. If Derek Anderson is our quarterback, Derek Anderson? I think it's Derek Anderson. I might be wrong, but who cares? If he's our quarterback, then we are not that good of a team. So we need Cam to stay healthy. If he's getting you 700 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns, or 600 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns, like those 2 seasons where he was great, yeah, he's going to be a really good pick at this point. But I don't think he's going to do that. I really think he's going to be around the 300 to 400 rushing yards, maybe 300 rushing yards max, and like 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns. And when he is not going to get 4,000 passing yards, that's just not who he is. So if he's in the like 3,500 to 3,700 passing yards, low 20s passing touchdowns, and he's not getting the rushing, he's not worth the pick. So I have him 10th round. Probably won't even be taking him if he's available there, because if he's available there, that means that I can get these guys after him even later. So maybe in like the 12th round, which I think is better value, and I just feel more confident in them. Rivers rounds out this tier. Issue with Rivers is that there's a chance he's actually on free agency in the middle of the year. If you look at his schedule, early to late, it's very much skewed towards the early being difficult and the late being easy. And he's even got a difficult game in week 17, so like that's just kind of thrown out because we're going to look at it in fantasy. I believe he's playing the Jets championship weekend. But second half is just a lot of easy matchups. So if you can trade for him, that's the big thing. I'm probably not going to draft him that much because I know in week like 6, and he's real struggling, and that team's struggling, I'm going to throw him a trade and try and get him when his value is at its absolute lowest. There's going to be around week 7, 8. I think he plays the Jags in week 10, but like you don't want to have that person look out and be like, oh, well, now it's finally easy matchups. You want to get him before he hits that easy streak. So maybe like 7, 8, 9 weeks like that. But after the Jags game, I think it's week 10. I think it's buying week 9. I'm not sure about that. But then he only plays Jags in week 10. After that, it's smooth sailing for him. So if you can trade for him before that hits, that's what you want to do. But not really a guy I've been drafting in mocks that much because it's tough. It's really tough early on, but not a super risky player because he's got so many guys around him. Tyrell Williams. Listen, I've been touting him a lot. I know this is a quarterback video, but draft Tyrell Williams late in drafts. Anyways, that was just a side tangent. Let's move on to the next tier, and this is the tier I really start liking because it's the point in the draft where the skill position players are finally done being really good, and I've usually just loaded up my bench with these great skill position guys. I've already taken a tight end, Kyle Rudolph, if you're wondering who I like drafting there. But this is the point in the draft where I really start liking the quarterbacks. I think Dak Prescott comes in at 12. Everyone at this point knows the schedule is tough for him. And when I'm recording this, I do not know the suspension for Elliott or if there even is one. I'm not convinced there will be one. And if it is, I think it's going to be very short. So that really doesn't play at all into my ranking for him. But he has a really tough passing schedule. Although, I think that's kind of baked into his ADP. I mean, 12th, I think ADP-wise, he's going maybe like 13 or 14. I'm not sure. But I have him 12. I think that's fine. I mean, you're looking for low-end quarterback 1 production, which even in a tough schedule, I think he can hit. Will he regress? Yeah, I think the offense as a whole is going to regress, especially with the offensive line not being the same. It is not going to be as good as it has been. It's projected, I believe, 9th best, which, I mean, it's still going to be great. But instead of being like clear-cut number 1, if it's, 7th, it's going to hurt the run game a little bit. It's going to hurt him passing game. He was pressured a little bit last year, more than some other teams in the second half. And the upside's not huge. He's never going to be a volume passer. So projection-wise, we're going to give him some rushing yards, obviously. He's going to have some interceptions, but I think that if you're looking for a monster ceiling, it's not there. But if you're just looking for a guy to get you some points later if he slips, that you can kind of trust, I think he's fine. I think that the options below him are a little bit better because they're going a little bit later, but I think he's fine. My favorite pick in the draft is right here at Tyrod Taylor. Maybe not favorite pick in the draft. I think there's some other players I like more. I like Willie Snead. I like Crowder, Tate, Diggs, Rudolph, Kelsey, Crowell, Tyrell Williams. But those are the guys I really like. I think right in that group is Tyrod Taylor. Now, does he have number one overall upside? No. No, he does not. But he's probably going to have the most rushing yards of any quarterback. And when you're giving me 500-600 rushing yards out of my quarterback, that is a floor I cannot pass up each week. And since I love taking quarterbacks late, since I love quarterbacks that just get me points, I do not like duds. Duds make me very upset because I think that if I build my skill position players well enough early in drafts, I don't need 40 points for my quarterback. Like 40 points is a lot, but I don't need 30 points for my quarterback. My quarterback can get me 20 each week. I'll take it. And I think that's what Tyrod can do. He doesn't have monster upside, but I think if Watkins can stay healthy, which is a huge if, but if Watkins can stay healthy, I think Tyrod Taylor has positive regression in the passing game, throws for a few more touchdowns. I think he can keep the ground game numbers, which will make him a mid to late quarterback one. He's gotten 14th and 8th past 2 seasons. I think he can get, if Watkins stays healthy, in that 7, 8, 9, 10 range, which is not where he's going. I mean, it's kind of stupid on ESPN where he's going right now. It's like 18th or something stupid. That's going to rise, but I don't think it's going to rise past where I have him here. 13th quarterback. So he's going in like the 12th. I have him as a 10th round grade. So if you're sitting there in the 10th, 11th round, take him. I think he's a steal at that point. Another guy that's solid for similar reasons in that you can trust him. Both of these guys really are Mariota and Stafford. Mariota is going to see regression in the red zone. He was hyper efficient in the red zone last season. I think that regresses, but they added Eric Decker, who's been one of the best red zone options over the past few years. So I think the main concern with Mariota is the volume. Obviously, when you have Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray and a top 3 run blocking offensive line, if you don't feed both of them and just run the ball like 40 times a game, you're doing it wrong. And that hurts Mariota, obviously. Like, they're going to score some points, so he's going to have touchdowns. He's going to run a few in, but he's a good mobile quarterback, but he's not like a rusher. Like, he's not like a Tyrod Taylor or a Russell Wilson. Like, he doesn't actually use his legs that much. So you're not going to get a huge floor for rushing, but I think he's safe. I think he's going to get you some touchdowns. He's going to have some weeks where he has a lot of passing yards, but especially if you're in like a 300 bonus, Tyrod Taylor and Mariota probably aren't for you. If you're in a league, like my league, actually my money league, I probably won't have them because we get 5-point bonus for 300 passing yards. On DraftKings, it's a 3-point bonus. You avoid them a little bit because you just want the guys who are going to hit that. And that's why Phillip Rivers is a bit more valuable in those formats, because even if he has a few picks, he makes up for it by hitting the 300-yard bonus. These two aren't really going to hit that, which is why they get pushed down a little bit. But this is for a normal roster setting, and I know a lot of you don't play like that, and it's not a normal roster setting. Just note that if you do have a bonus for 300 yards, they get docked a little bit. Someone who does not get docked a little bit, and someone who's honestly, I think, been undervalued this year, is Matthew Stafford. We've seen 5,000 yards. I know it was in 2011, but we've seen 5,000 yards out of him. We've also seen 6 consecutive years of all 16 games and at least 4,200 passing yards. He's going to be in that 42 to like 5,000 range, which at quarterback 15, that's good value. Like, he's not a mobile quarterback. Maybe he runs a few in. He does have some of those sneaks that he gets in, kind of like Brady. But I think that he's a safe pick. He's been playing all 16 games. He's going to have the passing yards. He has big play upside each week. He doesn't have the same upside as the Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, but I mean, he's quarterback 15. Like, how many of these guys really do? So I think he's a good pick. I think he's a really good pick in this range. Someone I'm comfortable with, 10th, 11th round. I have him 11th round grade, just because, again, I don't reach on quarterback. All right, let's move on to this next tier. Another 4-person tier. We got Big Ben, Eli, Dalton, and Wentz. This is the tier where I see the first like real big drop. There were some drops into these tiers, obviously. That's why I have them in tiers. But I think this is the tier where I start getting a little bit concerned. You know, maybe you're in a draft where you're like, I'm going to wait on quarterback, but then for some reason people are taking like 3 quarterbacks. you're like, what the heck is going on? It's, the 11th round and these are my options. I start getting concerned, which is why I need to grab one of these, because you do not want to get into this red tier I'm about to talk about. But honestly, I really just don't want any of these guys. I definitely don't want Big Ben. There's no way Big Ben will be on any of my teams. If you play DFS, you target Big Ben at home in good weather. Like, that's just what you do. He's going to throw for 303 touchdowns. But once he's on the road, yikes. And the injury concerns are high. I mean, he contemplated retirement this offseason. Like, is his head in the game? I'm just not sure. It's just, again, he's going to be great. He's going to win you weeks when he's at home. But I don't want to, I'm not drafting two quarterbacks ever. And you have to draft two quarterbacks if you draft Big Ben. Not because of injuries, just because you can't play him like, you cannot play Big Ben on the road. You just can't do it. It's like the ultimate contrarian play in DFS, but it's a stupid one because he's never good. He's going to have 303 touchdowns at home. So if you're playing him against him and he's at home, I'm sorry, that's just unfortunate for you. But he won't be on any of my teams. I mean, he's finished 15th, 13th, 18th, 11th, 5th, 21st, and 18th since 2010. It's just not good. And he's not consistent at all. And I'm not drafting two quarterbacks, which is why I can't draft him. Eli, I will draft. I have him hit a 12th round grade. He's a safe pick. Again, not a guy who's has top 5 upside, even really top 7 or 8 upside. But he's going to be pretty safe. I mean, you look at the weapons around him. He brought in Brandon Marshall. They have Evan Ingram. So I'm not projecting Evan Ingram to like be good or anything. I mean, he's going to be good, but not like for fantasy. It's not like, oh, they brought in Evan Ingram. There's 808 touchdowns. Like, I'm not going to project that. Could he do it? I guess, but he's not going to be that involved. But I just think it's the addition of him, the addition of Brandon Marshall, already having Odell, already having Sterling in the slot. So having Vereen at the backfield helps as well. The O-line's a huge concern. I believe they're projected around like 28th, 29th in the league for O-line. That's not good. He's going to get hit a lot. He's getting up there in age. But he's played 192 consecutive games, so he's 36. It's towards the end of his career, but I think he's a fine pick. Dalton's another fine pick. Same concerns, basically, is the offensive line's just dreadful on his team. I don't know what they're projected at, but it's in the later 20s, I'm pretty sure. But he's fine. He's fine to take late in that he's got good red zone weapons in Eifert and Green. He's got Ross to stretch the field, the rookie they brought in. He's not, like, injury prone. He missed 3 games with a fractured thumb in 2015, but other than that, I think he's played like every other game. So could he suffer an injury with this awful offensive line? Yeah, I mean, but I'm not going to project that. I just think he's fine. Like, at this range, if everyone ahead of him's gone, you grab Dalton, because I'm fine with Wentz. You grab Dalton or Wentz, basically, but I'm fine with Wentz, but I like Dalton a little bit more. But you just, again, you don't want to get to the red tier I'm going to talk about. So these are the guys where it's your turn coming up. You got to take one of them if you haven't taken a quarterback yet. I prefer to take the tier above this. So this range, I just don't prefer, but they're fine. Wentz, obviously, they brought in Alshon. Torrey Smith, I don't think he's that good, but he can stretch the field, I guess. And obviously Matthews is a slot guy that he's good. I mean, he's a good slot receiver. Blunt's fine in the run game, but they have the number 1 projected offensive line. I think that metric, it's a metric that projected these things. I think maybe they're like top 5, not number 1, but they're going to be great regardless. So I think he can progress a little bit more from what he did last season. He's going to be around 4,000 though. He's not going to run the ball. He's going to have some interceptions, not a ton of touchdowns. So again, if you're looking for upside, this is not the play for you. But if you're really looking for upside at quarterback 19, I mean, come on. I don't really know what you're doing in this range. Okay, let's move on to the final tier. It's the red tier. I'm really just not going to go over these guys that much. Bortles, Flacco, Bradford, Tannehill, Hoyer, and Palmer. If you're in this range, it better be a 2-quarterback league. That's all I have to say. Because we have seen Bortles be an elite fantasy quarterback. I mean, he's finished, what, 9th and 4th past 2 seasons? But I really believe they shift towards a run game, like a heavy run game. And I don't know what I feel about Fournette. Like, there's a world where the O-line's not good enough. Like, they're projected average, but I think they're going to be below average offensive line. There's a world where they can't establish a run game. The defense, every single year, people seem to say it's going to be elite. It was really good last year, and they added pieces, so I think it's going to be a really good defense, but there's a world where the defense isn't that great, and the run game can't get going, and he has to air it out again, and they love to throw in the red zone. So I get it if you want to take him. That's why I have him to lead this tier, but I cannot, in good conscience, put him in the tier above. There's just, I don't know. I don't see it happening. I see him being like a mid 2, which again will make value at this point, but do you really want a mid 2? Just stream. At that point, you should not be starting a mid 2 every single week. You should be streaming whoever's hot, streaming good matchups on free agency, because again, if you follow the articles that we write each and every week, you can get quarterback 5 or quarterback 6 production streaming. That's why we say you guys should be reading our articles we put out. So I'm not picking anyone in this range. Flacco, again, he's going to be amongst the league leaders in passing yardage. But where's the upside? I mean, he's got no rushing upside. He's going to throw picks. He's going to be around like 4,000 in the low 20s, but again, it's going to have some boomer bust weeks. He doesn't have a ton of weapons around him. He's got like fine weapons, but nothing that great. He's fine. I mean, Bradford is a great play in DFS. I had a really good week pairing him with Diggs last year, and that's basically all I'm playing him in is DFS. Because of that offense, I think they progress. I think they are going to be better than last season. They're really unfortunate in the injuries of the offensive line. I think that takes a step forward. I think Cook helps them. Latavius Murray's trash. He's not going to be their guy. It's going to be Dalvin Cook and McKinnon on like third downs and hurry up offenses kind of stuff. But I think they improve, which will help his passing yardage a little bit, his touchdowns a little bit. I still don't think he's going to throw many picks just because of that short passing game. Like, they don't throw the ball deep at all. And don't let people tell you that he was like set the record for completion percentage, so he's like some great quarterback. It's just because they throw the ball like 2 yards. But I think the offense is going to be fine. It's just that the volume won't be there for him to be an elite quarterback. So can you use him streaming? Absolutely. You can use some of these guys on this list streaming. If he's got maybe a really easy slot matchup, and actually he's got one of the softest passing schedules overall, but I believe they have maybe the softest, maybe like the second softest schedule for slot receivers. So in DFS, I'm going to pair him with Diggs and Thielen and Rudolph a ton, but I don't think you can rely on him in season long. So don't draft him, but good streaming option. If they play a really bad defense that week, maybe it's projected to be a shootout. Tannehill's another guy I advise staying completely away from. He's just not a good quarterback in general. They're going to hide him. They're going to feed Ajayi, which is why I'm super high on Ajayi, late first, early second round. But I really think they know finally that he's not a good quarterback, and they're going to hide him. They're going to run the ball a ton. They're going to do maybe short passing game. Just take the ball out of his hands as much as possible. So I'm not touching him. Hoyer's a guy, if you're in this range and you just want upside early, you can take. There's a lot of injury concern because he just always has a concussion or just some sort of injury. But on a team that's got a pretty bad defense, that's going to be playing from behind, I have seen Hoyer be good. And if you want to, in DFS, absolutely. I really think, I haven't seen schedules, but I think early I'm going to throw a tournament lineup at Hoyer and Pierre Garçon, because I think that could be a championship in DFS. I think that could be a tournament winner, is Hoyer and Garçon combo. So I'm going to look. I'm so excited for them to release these week one, because they do it real early, week one. So I'm definitely going to play around with them because they're going to be super cheap. Maybe not Garçon, but in a full point PPR setting, love Garçon. Hoyer's fine. Like in this range, if you're in a 2-quarterback league, it's not ideal because in 2-quarterback leagues, you guys have seen in the mock draft I did for 2-quarterback league, I like getting a top 7 option and I like a top 15 option, and then he can be my 3 Hoyer. But I want 2 really good options, so I don't go here in 2-quarterback leagues. But